Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my good friend Drew Crawley. What's up, Drew?
Howdy, sir.
Now, you just came off a couple of big nights of shows for yourself, right?
Yeah. Shows with friends this time. So this weekend we did like a local Louisville music showcase, and we booked about 4 hours and about five different acts, and kind of let everybody do their own thing, and played some jams together, and all kinds of fun musical collaboration this weekend. So a couple nights in a row of that, and I've been on the couch all day, being reminded that I'm not young anymore.
Well,
I can't stay out drinking with my friends till 3 a.m. and be okay.
well, yeah, I don't even try. So, yeah, these 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. gigs that you're doing, yeah, that doesn't have the old guys in mind at all.
No,
But enough about my geriatric woes. We've got a fun show for you guys tonight. We are doing something a little different. We're calling it Turntable Roundtable. And we've got a couple of guests with us, and we'll introduce them in just a minute. But basically, we're going to talk about what's on your mind in the whiskey world, what's on your mind with music. So it's going to be a lot of fun, especially when you get to meet our guests. You'll know that we're going to end for a good time. But before we get into that, we want to tell you a little bit about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends that produce content for the bourbon enthusiast. If you are into whiskey at all, we've got a show for you. We have Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. On Distillers Talk, they will talk with a distiller from all across the country, all around the world. And man, do they get in some really detailed, geek out kind of stuff. But if you are into whiskey, you're going to learn a lot about it just by listening to this show. I'm not a distiller, I don't distill anything, but I love the show because it tells me a little bit more about the process of how what's in that bottle got made. Alan's also got a program he calls One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. And with that, you can email him any question on distillation, and he'll record short videos telling you the answer to your question. Lots of good stuff there. My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. It's a lot of fun. It's a live show. The chat there is always a lot of fun as well. And then, of course, you have our show, Bourbon Turntable, which, well, you found us. So hit subscribe, stick with us. I think you're going to have a good time. And with that, I want to talk with Alan Bishop, who is one of our guests, the alchemist of the Black Forest of Southern Indiana. I believe that is one of your monikers. Is that correct?
Yeah, we just had a conversation about how much of that legend was BS right before we went on. That's part of that 85% right there. Yes.
Now, you also have another show that's part of the Bar Cart Co-op, and that is If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. So tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's our kind of paranormal show that me and my wife, Kimberly Marie Bishop, we host. So that's anything high strangeness, Fortean, UFO, ghost stories. Sometimes generally just creepy stuff. So I've been doing these little segments on like graveyard lore here lately. They've been a lot of fun. We did a segment on the Serbian vampire outbreak in the late 1700s, which was kind of cool. And we've been doing a little detour into haunted distilleries lately by finding people who have distilleries who claim to have ghosts at their distillery, bringing them on, talking to them about it. And that's been a lot of fun. Next week's episode, they usually come out on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how lazy I am, sometimes on Monday. But we had Kate Henriot Jaw, who is a direct descendant of the Henriot sisters of absinthe fame. And she came on to talk about some of her practice and spirituality and all that stuff. So that was a blast, and really enjoyed that. And it's always fun to talk to her. So it's something a little different. It's sometimes distilled spirits aren't mentioned at all, and sometimes it's very distilled spirits heavy. So
yeah. Well, our other guest, and we'll ask him if he has a ghost at his distillery, is Josh Golladay. Now, Josh is with Ironroot Republic in Denison, Texas. Josh, tell everybody what your role is with Ironroot, and if you have a ghost at the distillery or maybe lurking behind your the wall at your house.
Don't tell the story on here. Message me.
Yeah, no, I don't think the distillery is old enough to be haunted just yet. But there's a few places downtown Denison that I think are maybe a little suspect. A few of the old rundown hotels and stuff like that, where nefarious things may have happened at one point or another in the past. So, but yeah, no, like you said, I work for Ironroot Republic Distillery, and working at a small distillery, of course, you do a little bit of everything. So my main responsibility has been digital marketing and all the online stuff, the website, the social media, and such, as well as in-person kind of sales and marketing, brand ambassador type things. But on Friday we were running the bottling machine and cleaning and taking care of people that came in to buy bottles. It's just kind of a lot of whatever needs doing with a small crew like that. So. You get a lot of chance to experience a lot of different things, up to and including kind of dabbling and learning more about distilling and maturation and blending and all the stuff that Jonathan, our head distiller, is so good with. So
yeah, well, good. Now, Josh was on the show last year with, I believe Robert was on with you, and we got to talk about all things Ironroot, and that was a good time. And we, I think, really connected, especially on the music side of things. You're big into music, so
absolutely.
We've been trying to get you back on to be a guest host with us, and so thank you for agreeing to be on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know it was I actually moved from Austin to Denison not too long ago, so I was a little without a home there for a little bit. So now we're nice and settled, and glad to get back to talk with you guys again. So.
Well, very good, very good. All right. Well, we have one more announcement for you, and then we'll get into the rest of the show.
All right. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere. Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
Man, Mike Ballsack is really good at that.
Every time we have him on, we have him do that again. So I think I've got about 4 or 5 different versions of the same thing. But they're all different. Sometimes he remembers what platforms we're on. Sometimes he doesn't. I don't know. So, but Mike's a good sport. And I think Mike listens to the show every week. And then once his part plays, he turns it off.
He tunes out.
Well, all downhill from here.
Help, my part's done.
It peaks early, man. It peaks early.
All right, so we're going to talk a little whiskey here. And first of all, we're going to talk about what everybody is drinking from their glass tonight. So, Josh, we'll start with you, buddy.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, with Alan on here today, I had to get my Spirits French Lick Lee W. Sinclair 4-grain bourbon out of the cabinet. This is the only bottle that I've tasted. We've got a few up at the distillery, but this is the only one I've actually gotten my hands on here in Texas. So I've been savoring it, and I figure what better to pour tonight than some Allen stuff. So
thanks,
that's what I'm drinking right now. Yeah, of course, it's delicious, fantastic. Yeah. We're big fans of what you do, and the licorices always have great things to say about you. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah. All right, Alan, how about yourself?
So tonight I'm sticking the coffee because I'm trying to dry out a little bit. I'm not doing dry January, but I'm trying to dry out a little bit in general. But so if I was drinking, I would be probably leaning into the Ironroot stuff if I had an extra bottle. But every time I get one, it just miraculously disappears. I've been I know Jesse from Stillett sent me some samples. I got some samples from New Zealand, so I've been kind of going through his samples, including his 1700 style absinthe that he and I worked on that I'm really impressed by, and what might be the single best apple pie that I've ever had in my life. So, and I'm not a liqueur person, but that apple pie is pretty damn good. So
very cool. Now the coffee you're drinking, is that the Stave and Bean?
It is Stave and Bean coffee.
So tell everybody about that.
That one is which one? It's the blackberry one. So this is Stave and Bean / if you have Ghost, you have everything coffee. So we took we had an apple brandy, 15-gallon, once used. Oh shit, Gary Heingardner. Why am I blanking on his distillery in Missouri? Gary Heingardner. Yeah.
Now you got me.
Wood hat. Yeah.
Yes.
15-gallon wood hat barrel, Chinkapin oak that I bought from him. Then we put some apple brandy in that, After that came out, I made some blackberry wine and fortified it with apple brandy and put that back in the barrel. And then that went down the stave and bean, and those guys put roasted beans in there. And so it's got a little blackberry tonality to it. It's really nice. So
very cool.
Sounds great.
Very cool. All right, Drew, what do you have?
All right. I'm killing the last little bit of my 2022 Parker's Heritage sample here. So that was a gift from a friend of mine, but it is double-barreled blend of Kentucky straight bourbon whiskeys, 13 and 15-year-old, 132.2 proof, and I believe it is the standard Elijah Craig mash bill. They're 78, 10, 12. So it's delicious. It tastes like chocolate-covered raisins and like leather. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
can't beat that.
I've got this McKinsey 100% malted rye single barrel.
Oh, that's fun.
And it's aged 5.5 years. And anytime I see something that's 100% malted rye, I'm probably going to grab it, just because I've just had really interesting experiences with those. The ones you get or used to be able to get from Limestone Branch.
Yes,
those are just fantastic, and it breaks my heart that they don't do that anymore. But I've run across a couple others along the way, and this one from Finger Lakes is really interesting. On the nose, it's very floral. When you start drinking it, you get a little bit of tea, a little bit of mint, a little bit of sugar, or honey, blackberry, lemon. But the finish is the coolest part, because it starts out like kind of an effervescent fruit striped gum, and then it kind of settles in. You know those old school, old-fashioned lemon drop candies that have the little sugar crystals all over them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That. So it's quite delicious. So
does that one have a year on it by chance, Kevin?
let's see. I do not see a year on it other than the age statement.
Gotcha.
Which is
What
5.5 years.
5.5. So yeah, it's probably actually distilled by Thomas Earl McKenzie then. So yeah, great distiller that not enough people know about.
Yeah.
So
well, that sounds like a conversation for another day, or maybe later in the show. So
yeah.
Hey guys, thank you all for being here, and cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, so I think we would all agree that there are some really fantastic things about the whiskey industry. But I'm guessing that everybody's got at least one pet peeve, if not 1 dozen pet peeves about the state of things in the spirits industry.
It's like MGP Rye 95.5.
Well, so anybody want to start off with anything that's a pet peeve for you in the spirits industry?
Sure.
Sure. I mean, the thing that always comes to mind for me more than anything else is anytime that there's a lack of transparency on a product or on the behalf of a producer or something like that. It's first of all, it's, I'm just fundamentally, that's something that I don't like, but I also don't understand why people like honesty. People can see through inauthentic stories or misleading labels and stuff. The consumer's better educated and more of an enthusiast than ever before now, right? And so you have nothing. You can only gain by being transparent. I think people respect you more for it, and so the more transparent you can be about your processes and your product and everything that goes into it, I think the better off you're going to be these days in the distilling industry. So whenever I see something like some news story comes out that somebody got a label that was not accurate or any of that type of stuff, it's just kind of bugs me. Because I feel like that's one of the most important things these days, is to respect the fact that people know more than ever about what they're drinking. I think.
it's too easy to access information
Yeah.
to put yourself in a position of having to backtrack or having that kind of egg on your face. But there's some out there that I don't think they care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
as long as it sells.
Right.
and and that's got to be rough too, or it should be rough for them, right? Because everything is so social media driven. Like, can you imagine being the guy that's lied about your label and then you end up on a show like this, right? 'Cause we're just gonna nail you.
Mhm.
We're just gonna nail you. So, I wouldn't want to be that guy.
I think they hide from shows like this. I think they go. They know where they're going to get softballs. I mean, they're not going to go on Distillers Talk.
No.
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 And while we might be polite about it, at least at first,
Did you guys?
we're going to ask the question.
Yeah. Did you guys just see my wife scare the shit out of me because I didn't hear her come in here with a cough? No more ghost shows for a while.
She moves in silence.
Well, she hid the knife that she had pulled behind your back right as you turned around.
She's more cruel than that. It would be a piece of paper, buddy. It'd be a paper cut to the throat. Yeah. I'll tell you the one that bothers me, and it's been bothering me for a couple of years, and it's sort of a twofold thing. It's the idea of with bourbon that there's going to be an unlimited market, so everybody just keeps ramping up production, but they're ramping up production on everybody making the same mash bill, using the same yeast, etc. It's part of it, right? If those foreign markets don't open like they were expected to open, and economically, let's be honest, the markets they expected to open don't look like they're doing all that great, truthfully. It's going to get real hairy for people that focus just on bourbon in a few years. And then the second part of that is clone people. And what I mean by that is all the distilleries that are opening on the craft level who have all the exact same consultants. They buy the exact same equipment. They buy the exact same size fermenters. They use the exact same yeast. Their buildings all look exactly the same. In 5 or 10 years, you're going to get steamrolled. And that has happened in the past before with the whiskey trust prior to prohibition. And there's no reason to believe that it won't happen again.
Right.
If and I'm not saying that the bourbon boom is over, that the bubbles popped yet or anything. I'm just saying, well, listen, when you walk into Total Wine and it's literally, 2 aisles on both sides all the way to the back of the store, and it's all brown spirits with a bullshit story and a brown label.
Right.
How do you find something new?
Right.
It just doesn't work. So, but you also can't convince these people that, because all the people that are starting distilleries are people that have money from other endeavors and really don't know anything about the distilled spirits industry. And they just see that bourbon is hot right now. So can we clone Old Forester?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Well, I'll share one of mine, but the way that a lot of the mom and pop or neighborhood liquor stores keep being bought up by larger companies has been a pain point for me. We have a great store here in Louisville that we all love that was recently purchased. And I think one of the many things that made that store so special was the people that ran it, and they will no longer be there and all that kind of stuff. So I just hate losing, the familiarity that you have, known by name and knowing the people by name when you walk in there in a healthy way, not in a crazy alcoholic way, because we sit there and we talk about what are we drinking, what are we enjoying, and all that good stuff. So I hate seeing that. I'm gonna feel the loss of that store and a few others that I'm aware of that sell out or are purchased by larger companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a ancillary thing there too that's very similar to what happens to a lot of craft distilleries too. They get bought out, and if the company that buys them is smart, they'll leave the same people in place, but either people leave because they don't want to be a part of a bigger corporate structure, or their jobs become redundant. So,
well, I mean, look at I mentioned Limestone Branch a while ago. When it was just them with Luxco, I think Luxco pretty much let them do what they wanted to do. But now that MGP is parent co, I don't see that being the case.
No.
The discontinuation of the experimental series is, I think, evidence of that. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of talent at Limestone Branch, both with Steve Beam and with Stephen Fonte.
And that's the problem with the corporate thing is they look at it and they say, they see Stephen Beam and they see his last name, they see the Yellowstone thing, and they don't see him as a craft distiller, an artisan distiller, whatever you want to say. They see him as a marketing person. And I'm not speaking for Steve. I don't know that he feels like that at all. I just, from the outside looking in, I could see where it would feel that way. Or in other examples where you have a big company that buys a craft distillery, and I don't know that it's headed there yet, but I suspect highly. It's, for example, Constellation buying Copper and Kings, right? Are they really going to up any production value at Copper and Kings and actually put out all pot stilled brandy, or is that going to be a matter of Constellation has a bunch of bulk brandy to kick out that they can blend with some craft brandy, right, and push it out there all the way down to, hey, let's pick up some MGP barrels and throw them in some brandy barrels and put it in the tasting room, which when I was there, like if you even mentioned that in the meeting, Joe Herron would strangle you in person. So
I think that Josh, what you talked about with the lack of transparency, and Alan, what you talked about with just the cloning of new upcoming distilleries, I think those two things kind of go hand in hand sometimes, right?
Yeah, there's a kind of a homogenization that happens.
Yes, unfortunately.
Well, you're not getting the full story about where the whiskey was distilled.
No.
And you're certainly not getting any other information that an discerning or somewhat experienced bourbon drinker would want to see. But you are getting a tidal wave of marketing BS.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And there's none of it's fun, interesting, or pushing the envelope either, right? Like,
right.
I might give them a pass if their marketing was better, right? I mean, nobody's put nobody. When I was a kid, I collected comic books, right? You'd buy the same comic book 4 times because it had 4 different holographic covers. Give me a holographic label at this point if you're going to sell me the same thing.
Well,
that's a free one, guys. That's a free one. You can write me a check if you want to.
Taking notes over here. Holographic Ironroot labels.
Back when you could find it, well, I mean, that was Blanton's. I mean, it wasn't a holographic label, but it was a different letter on a horsey, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. They should release a white dog and just put a mule on top of it. Brand new market right there.
There you go.
You got all kinds of great ideas tonight, man.
Listen, I told my new assistant distiller, Justin Whaley, if it's stupid, it sticks. It just if it's something serious, it doesn't rattle around in there long. But if it's stupid, it's just in there. It's just in there.
I guess the last 2 weekends in Louisville, we've had liquor stores with lines around the building
for Marky Mark.
Well, yeah, 2 weeks ago, it was to get lining up to get old wristbands for drawings for Pappy and BTAC, and there were just thousands of people. I mean, it looked like a Stones concert was going on or something.
Wow.
And so you got 1,500, 2,000 people in your parking lot, waiting for, I don't know, 35, 50 bottles of whiskey that probably 90% of them were looking how they could sell it on secondary market before they got out of the parking lot. Right?
90% of them had it listed on secondary before they even had the bottle.
But then this past weekend, Mark Wahlberg was in town promoting his celebrity tequila. That's right. That's what it was, right? Tequila.
Yeah, tequila.
Yeah. So, I mean, P.T. Barnum wasn't far off when he said there's a sucker born every minute.
No, yeah, the tequila that I'm pretty sure he doesn't drink, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if I had a chance to hang out with Mark Wahlberg, I'd probably hang out with him. But I'm not going to go like stand in line so that he can sign my shitty tequila bottle that I'm not going to touch.
Yep.
It's just not happening.
What about the whole celebrity brand thing? Drew, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's slowed down a little bit more recently. It felt like there was one every day for a little bit, probably a year and a half ago. So I'm glad it's slowed down a little bit. I think some of them are decent. And, when there is some kind of connection with a product, that maybe that was a musician or an actor or whoever it may be goes and falls in love with this place and these people, and they can actually share a story. I'm much more open to hearing that. I won't name names, but I had a chance to try a new celebrity whiskey at a festival this summer, and it was just pond water, like absolutely terrible. And the only thing that they had to say is, "Oh, we sell this at our bar, and it's merchandise from the show, and this is part of the thing." And I was like, "Okay, I have no room or interest for that." And I'm a huge fan of the individuals behind it, but not their whiskey at all.
Yeah.
There's been one of those for several years now from Jackal, that is Jesse James Dupree, that is, and I love Jackal, but that whiskey is highly questionable at best.
Now, have you guys either at Ironroot or Spirits of French Lick, and if you can't say, I understand, but have you guys been approached by celebrities or celebrity wannabes that have wanted to have their brand developed through your whiskey?
The only thing that we've done that's even anywhere close to that is a blend of several Texas whiskeys that was called Grayson. And there was a gentleman by the name of Vernon Wells was a part of that project, but it wasn't really advertised as the Sports Stars whiskey. It was just him and some other folks that were associated with him. Was an author named Nico Martini and some other folks that kind of invested in the project. So it was a blend of us and Balcones and Lone Elm and most recently Treaty Oak in the last batch. But yeah, I mean, to call that a celebrity whiskey, it was really just advertised as a blend of Texas craft distilleries more than anything else. Surely there's a celebrity brand out there that's done kind of with integrity, but I can't think of one off the top of my head because so often they're so badly done, know, and it's obvious what it is. But I don't know. Can you think of any that really that come off as a product with integrity like that?
There's whiskeys that I enjoy. There's one that is Russ Smith, who was a U of L basketball star about a decade ago. He works very closely with some, good people who have trustworthy palates, and I think they put together a great whiskey. But I don't know, he's also not out here saying like, "Oh, I made this myself," or whatever. Right. It's more just bourbon's part of my life because I'm from Louisville, kind of a thing.
Right.
So I will say I've enjoyed that one, and I think they go about it in a pretty high integrity way is what I'm trying to say. But it's the only one that I can think of.
On the distilled spirits side, I can't think of any of them that I've had that I or have even been interested in that I think have a lot of integrity. I think it happens somewhat more maybe on like the winery side. You have Maynard James Keenan and the whole Canisius Cellars, and he's making excellent wine. It'd be great to see him move into the brandy space a little bit. Would be kind of cool. But other than that, I mean, and some of them are honestly kind of hypocritical, right? So like you take the Metallica Blackened thing. Okay. So same band that was called Alcoholica throughout the 80s, and James Hetfield's, long history of, fighting for sobriety, but we're going to go sling some fucking whiskey. Right. So,
right. Yeah. Well, and then Slipknot is another prominent one that comes to mind.
Forgot about that one. Yeah.
I didn't care for it or don't care for it. But Long Branch. When I've heard Jimmy Russell talk about how all that came about, and Jimmy pretty much distanced himself from it when he was asked about it, at least at the event that I was attending. And he said, "Well, that's more of Eddie's thing." And But he said that, you know, McConaughey was very active in the whole process, and would call Eddie at 4 a.m. to talk about tasting notes on some of the samples that they'd sent him. And he came to the distillery, you know, dozens of times during the process. So yeah, maybe there's I think there's some integrity there. I didn't really care for the product, and McConaughey's name is no longer attached to it.
Yeah.
But
well, and I'm hypocritical about it too, because I'll give you another example. I went and bought a bottle of Crystal Skull vodka because I love Dan Aykroyd, and it's stupid. It's stupid, but I bought it because I love Dan Aykroyd. So it is what it is.
That's what they're counting on. That's why there were 1,000 people lined up around liquor bar this weekend.
If it had been Dan Aykroyd, I probably would have lined up.
I mean, look, like sometimes things can just be fun, right? Like not everything has to necessarily be the most, you know, honest, integrity-driven thing. But so, you know, once in a while buying the Crystal Skull vodka, it's, you know, I think that's fine. But it just seems definitely a trend with the celebrity endorsement. I will say the Balcones ZZ Top. I didn't think about that off the top of my head, but I don't know a lot about what went into it, but from the folks that I know there, those guys were very involved in a lot of calls and visits and tastings and things like that, and specifically selecting different casts to go into it. So I guess that, you know, we do have a local example here that was kind of done what I would think of as the right way, if you will.
So again, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think that it's something that seems to be continuing to go on out there. But trying to think if I have a bottle of any celebrity brand in my house, and I don't know that I do. But that's okay. Maybe I'm missing out. I will throw out one more, and that is just the hype around the same whiskey in a different bottle with a different label.
Yes.
You know, when I get that a lot of times when you're starting a distillery, you need to get revenue going, and you need to source some whiskey, and man, I have no problem with that. Again, as long as you're transparent with what's on the label about what's in the bottle and where it came from. But there's so much, 8-year, 6-year, 10-year, whatever MGP whiskey that people are taking and just dumping the barrel, putting it in a bottle, slapping a label on it again with some BS story, and everybody gets all excited about it. And okay, well, somebody had posted something on Facebook, one of the bourbon Facebook groups, and said, which one should I get? And it was pictures of 3 different bottles, and it was all 6-year MGP. It doesn't matter, okay? Whichever one's the price the lowest, or put them all away and go find something else.
It's literally like all created category stuff too. Like 95.5, we talked about that. That was supposed to be a blending component, and now it's light whiskey. It's almost as if like at the beginning of the year, every year, they would just announce whatever the color of the year is, and that's what you're supposed to paint your house. And then when they run out of that paint, then you move to the paint next to it that nobody liked before.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think MGP make good whiskey, but I don't need it in 14 different bottles, and it's all what's inside the bottle is basically the same.
You need it with a holographic label.
You need a holographic label. Yes, the only thing that is different is what's the bottle it comes in and the label on the bottle. And if it was a holographic label, then maybe I'd be more interested in it, depending on what the holograph was.
Maybe I'll do that. I think I have a barrel of MGP bourbon that we bought for some other client that we ended up keeping. Maybe I'll put that out, put a holographic label on it, and it'll say, I said I wouldn't, but I lied.
And you know what? people would line up around the distillery.
I'll do it.
Buy
I'll do
Absolutely.
it like the comic book / trading card too. I'll put 1 of 1 on every one of them.
Or one
Sold before the ink dried.
Okay, I'll shut up. I was going to get in trouble.
It's special because it was in my warehouse.
Yes,
Special.
Yes, it's very special. But again, if you need it, get the whiskey, but and do something with it. You look at Buzzard's Roost. Yeah, it's MGP rye, it's MGP bourbon, but they're doing something with it. They're secondarily aging it in proprietary barrels, and it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped in to see us the other day, just last week.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Just so happened to be hanging out in the front, and a crew of people came in, and it was the folks from Buzzard's Roost.
Yeah,
very cool.
And I mean, we have a product line called Saints Alley, but and it's a blend of MGP and our pot distilled Bloody Butcher, and then we do different cast finishes on them and stuff. But anytime we're talking about it anywhere, that's what it is, guys. This is MGP bourbon. This is blended with our stuff. It's finished in these barrels for this amount of time, and and just being completely straightforward about what is in the bottle there never goes the wrong way. I never have somebody say, "Oh, well, I don't know about that." I mean, they just appreciate. Okay, now I understand what this is. Let me try it.
Yep.
So being straightforward about it, I think, is always the right way. And the folks from Buzzard's Roost came in and said, "Oh, let me go to the car and pull it out a bottle." It was like a toasted French oak bottle that they had, and it's fantastic. And they were straightforward about exactly everything that they were doing. It was a great time.
Yeah. My other one right now is the media vultures, right? The do I care that Buffalo Trace has a new distributor? No. I've seen your headline 15 times. And I've been on Facebook for 5 minutes. I still don't care. It doesn't matter how many times it gets shared. I don't care. Don't care.
It is clickbait. That's for sure. That is for sure.
They've all got the scoop.
Yeah. Well, one other thing that's been in the news, and that was, and I don't know if this made it down to you guys, Josh, but Justin's House of Bourbon got raided by the ABC.
Yeah, I did hear about this.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that whole thing?
So I've talked to a couple of buddies that actually are affiliated with them. It seems like it was a pretty rough go for everybody that was involved there, for sure. And I don't know if you saw their statements, but they are going to get to stay open. So I don't know, any kind of what the impropriety or supposed impropriety was there. But I don't know much beyond that.
Yeah, as a former moonshiner / home distiller, I kind of refuse to comment. So
yeah, I think people jumped to a lot of conclusions when news broke that ABC had showed up at their stores. They have one in Louisville, one in Lexington. My experiences in their establishments have always been positive, and I hope that everything works out for them. But if they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, then there's a consequence to that.
Yeah. Well, the scary thing, and this is media buzzards again, the scary thing was the original report included TTB, which is a whole nother level of bullshit beyond ABC. And they retracted that, but nonetheless, when that was the first thing I saw, I was like, oh, okay, now it's interstate commerce, and it's really a big deal.
Right.
So
yeah, but again, even in the whiskey world, you need to let things settle, let the dust settle, and see what the real story is before making any conclusions or throwing any posts up on social media that you're going to regret.
Yes.
or have to take down, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else on whiskey before we go to our commercial break and then start talking about a little bit of music?
It's all stupid.
It's all terrible. It's all awful.
I will say this. I find myself saying more in the last 2 or 3 years, bourbon is so stupid.
Jump the shark. Jump the shark.
And there's so much about it that is fantastic. I would not know any of the three of you if it weren't for that. If it weren't for this industry. Okay. And I'm thankful for that. And there are lots of great times that I know we all have shared, and the people watching or listening to the show have shared great times with friends and family over a great bottle of whiskey, or even a bad bottle of whiskey. But
you mean you weren't buying my gin? Is that what you're really trying to say here, Kevin?
I've bought your gin. Okay.
I didn't drink it, but I bought it.
I've made entered your gin cocktails in contests before.
I caught him by the toe there. Did you hear him? He got hung up on that there for a second.
Yeah, I was trying to say gin cocktail contest really fast and trying not to
shut up, Alan.
The word and get in trouble. Anyway. All right. Well, we want to tell you a little bit about our friend Kelly Tennille.
Yes.
Kelly is an awesome lady. She is a distiller, and she recently won Master Distiller on Moonshiners. And we all think the world of her. She's a sweetheart. She's very, very talented at what she does. And in addition to the success that she has with the Master Distiller program and the fame that is descending upon her because of that, she also has recently taken on a job with Whiskey Thief Distilling, which was formerly known as Three Boys Distilling. And she's working with Hunter Coffee over there. She is distilling gin for them. So congratulations to Kelly.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep. So we're excited for her and for what she's got going on, what is in her future. So let's talk a little music. Maybe we can find something a little more positive to talk about with music.
There you go.
We're not in the music. Well, but Drew's kind of in the music industry, so yeah. So we maybe if we're not being in that industry, we'll be a little more positive about it. But I guess first question for you guys is, what have you been listening to this week? Anything different? Anything new?
Man, I've been absolutely obsessed with the new Larkin Poe record.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
It's so good. It's like every time I've like gotten in the car or gone to the gym or put on my headphones at work or whatever, it's like I go and looking for something new, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna listen to that Larkin Poe again.
Yep.
That and the new Margot Price album I've just been kind of getting into as well. Got some tickets to see both of them here in the next about 4 to 6 weeks. So
nice,
coming through town. Yeah, first time seeing both of them.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's the Blood Harmony album. Correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, huge fan. It's beginning to end is damn good.
Yeah, very talented, and that they're one that I really didn't catch on to till maybe one album ago, and so that a lot of times you may get in a little bit late to the game with somebody, but it's always a good thing to dive in where you dive in, and then just start working your way back.
Absolutely.
And you discover a lot of really good music that way.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note of that because I haven't got into that, so I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yep. How about you, Drew?
Good. I'm as usual on my Rustin Kelly kick. It's just kind of my normal morning routine is to listen to his new single. I've been getting into a lot of Noah Kahan's older music. We're going to go see him in like 3 or 4 weeks. Play over here at Paris Town Hall, so I'm excited about that. So kind of going through stuff that I didn't know that he had out, and then the one that's been on heavy rotation this week is a release called The Record by a band called Boy Genius, and it's one of those super groups. It's Julian Baker, Phoebe Bridgers, and Lucy Dacus. And they're my favorite, like, sad emo trio individually. I listen to all of their stuff individually, but then when they work together, it's incredible. So Boy Genius. It's called The Record. There's, I think, 3 or 4 singles out from it right now, and then new record coming in I think 2 weeks.
Okay. Now, has the Rustin Kelly song that I know you really liked, the Weakness, is that out on where you can really get at it now, or is it still just you have to find it live on YouTube?
There's a studio version out. Came out last Friday, and
okay,
it's out and about. Check it out. I love it, especially if you've had any kind of struggles with addictions and other things like that. That's a great song. Yeah. It's a great song regardless, but especially for those people.
Yeah. How about you, Alan?
I don't have a whole lot of anything new. I've been really kind of stuck on the Lennon Claypool Delirium this past week for some reason.
Oh, that's fun.
That's I love that stuff, and it kind of sticks with me. And I really like the lyrics, right? And I especially love the way that that Lennon phrases everything, right? You have to really be paying attention to catch what he's saying, in particular, in a lot of those songs. So I'm always picking up something I didn't catch before. And then I got I don't have it in here, I'll show you guys, but I did get Days of the New reissued, a label reissued the Orange album on vinyl, so I got a copy of that and had to hook up the turntable again, because that's never been on vinyl before. So unfortunately I reached out to the people who released it, and there are no plans for green or red, which kind of sucks. But other than that, it's mostly been digging through bootlegs of bands. I every once in a while just randomly I'll get stuck on something like the Doors, right? And then those old bootlegs of the Doors, they're kind of 50-50, if that, because Morrison's so screwed up most of the time. But when they were on, man. And there's some great ones out there, and some Sabbath bootlegs. I've been actually I hate the Born Again era with a passion, but the live shows from Born Again, especially when they were doing the Dio era songs, are fantastic. They are amazing.
Yeah, we were talking about Black Sabbath the other night, and their first album came out in 1970. I just had it in my head that they were much later in the 70s when they got started up, but they really kicked in at the start of the 70s, and that's one of the things that I've been listening to a fair amount lately, is just music from that decade. And I think you'd be hard pressed to say that there is another decade where rock music was stronger.
No,
Led Zeppelin, the Stones, Pink Floyd, Clapton, The Who, Rush, of course, Aerosmith, AC/DC, and then towards the end of that decade, Van Halen and the Police kicked in, Queen, Bowie. There's just a lot there, and unfortunately, a lot of those guys are getting to the age where they're either not around anymore, or they won't be much longer. I mean, we lost Jeff Beck just recently. So I guess the lesson in that is when if you get a chance to go see him, go see him. I mean, I know that Jeff Beck was touring with what's his name, Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. Yeah. And I thought, I am not going to go see Johnny Depp in concert. I might have a better chance of lining up to get a bottle of Marky Mark's tequila. But that was a mistake. Should have gone just see Jeff Beck.
I feel lucky that I'd seen Jeff Beck I think twice prior, but we saw him open for ZZ Top just a couple of months ago. And to hear him pass away, I just saw him perform for a giant crowd, and he was just amazing, of course. But to suddenly be gone.
Even that next generation of performers, when you get into the new wave and early goth stuff, those guys, they're not getting any younger. I mean, the Cures were, they're about to drop a new album, and Robert Smith is getting up there. Peter Murphy is still sort of touring part-time with Bauhaus, and then he just entered rehab, and he's getting oh, okay, we're supposed update from the weather lady. This is a new segment. Got a note that says models for Tuesday/Wednesday snow 6 to 10 inches. Just so
Ooh.
you're aware.
Ooh.
That's what she
Don't
said.
love that.
That's not what she said because it would be a lie. Drew saw that one coming from a mile away. He was like,
That
no,
was
Kevin, what'd you do? But,
anyway, Robert Smith is 63 years old.
Yeah.
So he's not
Wow.
that old.
But
He's
he
not that
looks like melted butter.
old. He doesn't. It looks like
You're not wrong.
somebody, the heat got out of control at Madame Tussauds wax factory. It looks rough.
Yeah.
It looks
Are you
rough.
guys familiar with the guitarist for The Cure right now, Reeves Gabrels? He's
Yes.
long been one of my favorite. He was David Bowie's
Yes.
guitarist in the 90s.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't, and he was on the, what the hell is the name of the tour? But the tour that they did with 9 Inch Nails, he was a guitar player on there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you go to YouTube and look up those crossovers where they would do, some of the David Bowie sets with 9 Inch Nails, some of the songs,
Mm-hmm.
man, they are fantastic. Between him and Robin Fink on guitar and playing off each other, like the cover, or not even the cover, but the performance of Scary Monsters, that alone is worth looking up from that era.
Unreal. Yeah. The Outside tour, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to find that.
Yeah, he's one of the most. I mean, you've got these kind of rock and roll guitarists that are a little avant-garde. You got your like Robert Fripp, and he's kind of like semi in that camp where he's got a really distinct, unique, unusual style. Of course, to be a part of Bowie's band all throughout the 90s, you'd have to.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Well, and even going back to that Scary Monsters era in the 70s, like that's one thing that people overlook with Bowie. You don't ever hear anybody really talk about that era, but you go back and listen to the guitar work on those coked out albums.
it's wild.
There's some great guitar work on there.
Mm-hmm.
Bowie always had some of the best musicians with him, even early on in his career. You look at the guys that he had playing on those Berlin trilogy albums, and just how producers still try to copy the sounds that they were getting on those. And you even fast forward it to I guess the late 80s, the Let's Dance album, which was one of his more commercial albums, but it's one of my favorites because you've got Stevie Ray Vaughan on there, you've got Niles Rodgers, as the producer. So he's always surrounded himself with exceptional musicians who push the envelope, and he lets them.
The other one I've been into this past week too, I didn't mention a while ago, and I feel like it's because they still just have a cult following, but I have never identified why I love them, but I love Devo. I still love Devo. If I it is impossible for me to be in a bad mood if I put on Devo. It is not going to happen.
Yep.
All right.
We were at an event last night, and it was a charity concert festival. I mean, there were several local bands that were playing, but in between they had a VJ, so they're playing videos of songs from the 80s, and Whip It came on, and the crowd went nuts.
Yep. See, the problem is I mentioned Devo, and now I'll have Girl You Want stuck in my head for the next 3 days.
Yep.
Freedom of choice. Yep. God, those videos were so kitschy.
Oh yeah.
I need a Devo hat, the little red plastic.
So the red, like not a fez, but yeah.
We'll see if we can find those. We can do a Bourbon Turntable show that just be a dedication to Devo.
Yes.
We'll talk about all the bands that their members formed on the side or were part of. It'll have to be a 15-hour show.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Drew, as far as being in the world as a musician, somebody that's produced written songs, produced records, and that kind of thing, what are some of the issues that you see that you have to face, and what kind of hills do you have to overcome to break through and that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I wouldn't say by any means that I've broken through. But I think the two main things for people that are at least kind of at my level in the kind of local to regional bar scene type stuff. One is, getting quality bookings that actually follow through. it's a weird fact of the matter, but I sit around with these other guys that I play with all the time, and they're like, "Hey, do you have a correct email for this person or that person at this bar?" And the booker changes, or the booker never told the manager, and you show up to the gig and there's a private party booked instead, or there's, your time slot's been changed, and oh yeah, the budget's not right. Like there's all kinds of little things that are super frustrating about that world.
Mhm.
The other thing I think that is a challenge, and this is more ethereal than it is a logistical thing. There's a real resistance, I think, in a lot of people to collaboration, and I mean strictly positive collaboration. I know we all kind of have egos and like, oh, don't critique me, like I'll figure it out on my own. But people that genuinely don't want to share a spotlight or share a stage, whether that's insecurity and intimidation, or if that is pure just kind of ego of I'll do this or I won't do this completely on my own. I think that holds a lot of people back, and it definitely can make for some less than ideal social dynamics when you run into those people and you know that they could have put your name on a bill or put you in at a gig and they didn't. Or you invite them to come be a part of something you're doing and you get told to kick rocks. I think that's a frustrating thing, and I'm not speaking about any necessarily one person or two people in that conversation. It's just something that I struggle with. But on the reverse side, the people that are most successful, at least here in the Louisville scene, they're always lifting other people up. They're always booking shows. They're taking the time to build friendships over, a career, and it turns out great for them. So, yeah, that's two things that we're working on for us right now too.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that too, because I haven't played music in any way, shape, or form for a long time, but it's always been like that to some degree. But so my very good friend of mine growing up, Mark Jackson, he's in a band called Overload, and so they're in the the metal scene, and it really seems like that scene, they really do a lot to support each other and push each other and get each other shows. And it's nothing for them to have a show on the weekend where they'll get a national touring act to come in that will literally come in just to support the scene. They may not even make any money off of it, but and then they're just like us. They have podcasts they share back and forth and really push it out there, and it seems to work for them pretty well.
Yep.
You talked about collaboration, and we try to look for connections or parallels between music and whiskey. Collaboration is a thing on the whiskey side as well. And Drew talked about some of the frustrations and that not really always being welcomed. How do you guys see that in the whiskey industry?
I think it can be a mixed bag at times. I mean, we tend to really like collaborating and bringing people in, whether it be something official where we've really partnered, and whether it be a brewery or another distillery or whatever, or we've had plenty of times where folks have come in to just spend a little time learning. Maybe they're starting a distillery in a totally different region of the country, and they just want to spend some time learning and kind of doing a little internship. And we're very open to stuff like that. Typically, at least when we're able to make time for it and it makes sense. But I think some folks I find to be more open and interested in collaboration, and other folks play it pretty close to the chest, I think, as well. And it just, that goes just down to the personality of the distillery and the brand and the ownership and all of those things. So it can be a mixed bag around here. I think in Texas in general, there's still a pretty open, collaborative, everybody's supportive of one another, type of thing. I mean, I have a number of friends at many different distilleries in several other cities and throughout the state, and they're all great, and everybody supports one another and comes to one another's events and all that stuff whenever we can. And whenever there's like the Texas Whiskey Festival once a year, it's kind of like a homecoming where everybody gets to see everybody that you don't normally get to be around. So there's definitely that spirit alive and well here. But I don't know nearly as much about the culture in in the Kentucky or someplace that has maybe some larger players around than we do here at the moment. But I'd be curious to what is you guys' experience of the culture in other areas where there's a distilling industry.
Yeah. For me, it's weird. Like people are open for collaboration. Like, I've talked to the Ironroot guys several times about coming down and doing something with them. It's a matter of finding time to actually go do it.
Yeah.
And I'm all about collaboration and action. And, especially if I could do it through Spirits of French Lick in an easy way. My problem there is that I don't have ownership. So I can only suggest the things, and then whether they happen or not depends.
Right.
But Indiana's weird too, because, I've joked oftentimes that we have this thing called Hoosier self-hatred, where we all believe that nothing good could ever come from Indiana. So we've had a craft distilling industry since 2014, and we literally just finally got a guild started. Like, finally we got our shit together and all got in one room and talked, but there's probably 3 or 4 of us in the state that, we'll share pretty openly between one another, and we'd be open to working with any of the other ones if they were up for it. But it seems to be, as of right now, it seems to be a lot of little isolated islands. And that's even with, MGP / Luxco, whatever you want to call them, sort of being an honorary member of that board. I think probably for obvious reasons, but it is what it is. I mean, at least we have a guild now, and we can do something with it. But
Right.
I'm all about collaboration. That's why I like doing the one piece at a time thing and Distillers Talk and all that stuff. I learn as much from the questions on there as the people that ask the questions do. So
Yeah. I think that you hear some of the old guys, Fred No or Jimmy Russell, Jim Rutledge, talking about, well, back in the day, you get a call from, somebody in another distillery, and they say, hey, I've got this part that went out on me on a piece of equipment. Do you have a spare? And, yep. Yeah. Drive up here and get it. We'll loan it to you till you get a new one in.
Yep.
And they did that kind of thing. I don't know if that goes on much anymore, or if it's also corporate at this point, that those kind of decisions are really out of everybody's hands that are actually on the ground here.
And we do a little bit of that in Indiana, right? If we have similar equipment, we can switch stuff out back and forth between friends or whatever. And, that's a thing that I think got lost maybe a little bit in Kentucky with, everything getting as big as it did. Part of what you're talking about, Kevin, I've heard this from multiple people over the years, including Charlie Downs. A lot of that was because there was a beam at pretty much every distillery, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And, they would make sure when they went to corporate or wherever they went to, like, hey, we're ordering this pump. We're going to call Heaven Hill and make sure, like, when they get ready to order their pumps, they order the same ones. So if something goes wrong, we've got it covered. So, and they're trying to help each other out because they're a family. And then that, of course, got extended to the Russells, et cetera. And that's the way to do it, though, honestly.
Yeah.
There's enough clone distilleries. They should be doing it.
Right. Well, they should have some buying power at this point.
See what I did there?
Yes.
Bring it back around.
I did. You did bring it
Call
back
back.
around.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay. Kind of circling back to the music thing for just a second, and playing off of a comment that Drew had, and that was just trying to get the right bookings at the right venues. What are your favorite type of venue to go see live music? You've got stadiums, you've got arenas, theaters, dive bars, festivals.
I hate festivals. If they're open air festivals, I hate open air festivals. It's hot. Everything costs too much. It smells like porta can outside.
Yep.
Like I don't want to go. And the bands only play, the limited set. I just don't want to go. I'm old, I guess, at this point, and I don't want to go. I don't want to be there. It sounds like people are all the time like, oh, I'll buy tickets and you can go with me. I'm like, you go ahead. You go ahead. I'll watch it on YouTube later and see if it was worth the shit. It'll be fine. I like theater shows a lot, right? Like the Palace. I love the Palace. I don't mind places like Headliners. Used to be pretty decent back in the day. I haven't been there in a long time, so I don't know anymore. Right. But and honestly, like little coffee shops and stuff like that, acoustic acts. I love that kind of stuff. So
I do really enjoy. I mean, I used to go to festivals religiously, and I'm like you now, man. I can't do it anymore. It's too hot. It's too expensive. And we did the exact same thing. We used to go to Austin City Limits Festival every year, and this year we're like, they're streaming that on YouTube. Let's just let's
Yep.
just hang back and check that out. But I don't know. I like everything from a huge spectacle of a stadium show with all of the lights and the screens and everything and the huge sound system. And it's a very like visceral assault on the senses kind of experience. But then I also love the last show that I went to. There's a town called McKinney that's just barely north of Dallas here. Okay, and there's a guitar store there called the Guitar Sanctuary. It's kind of a high end boutique. They sell small builders as well as like Fender custom shop and Paul Reed Smith guitars and all that stuff. So a really really nice guitar shop. And right next door, kind of the same building, they have a venue where they'll bring in like Andy Timmons plays there a lot. These kind of guitar hero type guys that maybe aren't really that well known to the general public, but if you're into guitar and a nerd about that stuff, you'll definitely recognize the names. So they get those guys through there. We went and saw Greg Koch play. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but phenomenal, insane guitarist, and getting to meet him after the show, he is seriously like 6'8". he's a giant beast of a man. And couldn't be more kind. But that's just like, it's the most intimate little venue, like maybe a couple hundred people can fit in there. And being able to be that close to watch somebody with so much talent perform live is incredible. And then of course being able to just shake his hand quickly and get a little photo after the show is always fun too. Something that you'll never get to do, obviously, at a larger venue typically. But so I like those little small intimate shows. To be able to meet somebody who's maybe I can look at him as kind of a guitar hero, but he's not a well-known rock star or anything like that. You get to have that kind of special little bit of a personal experience that way.
Yep.
That reminded me of something I hadn't thought about in a long time, and I bet Kevin and Drew have been to a few of these. But when Ear Ecstasy was open, right, and the bands, very very popular bands, would come in, and they would just be playing on the middle of the floor in this record store. And if you could get in, like, the sound was terrible, it was always terrible,
right?
But it didn't matter; it was the experience of it, right? You're right there next to them, and I got to see some really cool shows there.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. I love a music kind of nightclub type thing where it's specifically for listening to music, but maybe it's songwriters and local acts. That's where I found some of my favorite musicians. I'm unlike you guys. I love festivals. I'm a freak about them. I go to as many as I can. I love being able to just bounce around, and you got the multiple stage things going, 4 or 5 stages at a time. You can see kind of whatever you want, whatever you're in the mood for. And when you look at the ticket pricing, that's my big pet peeve about music business in general, also, is Ticketmaster pricing, which we can get into or not. But you pay for these festivals maybe $250, $300 for your pass for the week, and it averages to something like $9 a show across the festival. And I love being able to see that variety of music and spend the time with friends. It's also kind of my one vacation a year, so it might be a little bit emotionally tied for me, of like, I don't have to think about work. I'm just listening to music with my friends. So there may be that too.
I'm not a big festival guy either. Again, I think it's just I'm past that point in my life for the most part. I look at the tickets and I'm like, well, they've got these VIP passes where you can have like reserved seating and access to air conditioning and private bathrooms, and it's like, oh, $800. Well, I guess I'm not going to do that either.
It's also still going to smell like human ass there, I guarantee it.
So, but I don't really like stadium shows. Big arena shows can be okay. Depending on the setup and the acoustics in that specific arena. I'm into some that it's like somebody's garage, but I do like a good theater, like Alan referenced Louisville Palace. That's a great place. Ryman is a great place to go see a show. If you've not been able to get to to Nashville to go to something at the Ryman, you should, because it's just part of it.
Sacred ground right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, then you get all the way down to the little concert halls. And again, Alan referenced something like Headliners, and Mercury Ballroom in Louisville's kind of that way as well. And just places that it's just kind of wide open, but it's small and fairly intimate. So you can get 200-300 people in there, but you don't feel like you're just sardines. And but I do go to a lot of shows at bars and things of that nature. Just that's something that my wife and I do quite a bit of, and just that's one of our things. And we've seen a lot of really good musicians. I mean, the level of the measurement of differentiation of talent between somebody that's playing in a bar with 20 people in it and somebody that's playing in a stadium that's packed, it's infinitesimal. Because you can run across some extremely talented people playing at a bar down the street from wherever you live.
Yeah. And it's harder in the bar too for the musicians, right? Because not everybody's necessarily there to see them. So, a big band can go to an arena and call it in, and it's fine. You know?
Yeah.
So another little shout out too to the Palace. One more here because I love that place so much. But Louisville is still kind of a B city for certain acts, right? So you'll have somebody come through that doesn't have a huge following here, like and I've been to several like this, but Morrissey was a good example, right? It's not a big thing in Louisville, but I love Morrissey. And every time I've ever been to a show like that at the Palace, it didn't sell out, no matter where you were sitting, even if you had balcony seats. They'll come through and they'll be like, hey, if you guys want to move down, go down front. Right. And so you get to end up being a lot closer for, a lot cheaper than you ordinarily would.
Right.
So,
right. Okay. All right. Anything else on music, or are we ready to wrap her up?
Down with Ticketmaster.
Oh, okay.
And phone distilleries.
I got in Twitter jail. First time ever in my life. See, this wasn't even for music. I was buying tickets on Ticketmaster to take my grandson to a monster truck rally. Okay.
Like any good grandfather should.
The Ticketmaster fees were 70% of the price of the ticket.
Oh my God.
So I go on Twitter and I'm like, explain, this is what's happening. This is what Ticketmaster is doing to us. Ticketmaster is killing live performances. And I said, die, Ticketmaster, die.
They threw you in jail.
And the next day I get a little, hate mail from Elon and the Twitter police saying, hey, you have to delete that tweet. And then in 4 hours, we'll let you back in. And come on.
which is fantastic considering that it's you. Like, it was Twitter and I'm not on Twitter, but all the shit I've posted to Facebook over the years and I've never gotten banned one time. Right. And you talk some shit about damn Ticketmaster.
Yes.
I might try that tomorrow just for funsies.
We'll see. We'll see if Zuckerberg's has a hair trigger or not. So
Nope.
So yeah, I hate Ticketmaster. Oh, they're terrible. They're just terrible, man.
This is where StreamYard boots us.
Well, this will end up on YouTube. So
this show just got memory hold. It's gone.
But it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that difficult to sell these tickets. And I understand that you've got more complications these days with people trying to counterfeit them, and
sure,
you got to sell secondary market there. Secondary market shouldn't be your problem, but guess what? Ticketmaster's right in the middle of the secondary market on these.
Yeah, they got it built right in now.
Yes.
I would not even be mad at paying the convenience fees and stuff. That's super frustrating. But if they would just take the option to transfer tickets away and only allow them to be refunded and sold from the original point of sale, I think that would solve so much. because you wouldn't have all this, hey, Venmo me, $2,600
Right.
and I'll give you this $200 ticket I got, or whatever the case may
But
be.
then I couldn't get my Metallica tickets with my Pappy bottle.
Or your Pappy bottle with your Metallica tickets.
Mhm.
Right? Or your Taylor Swift tickets and your, house payment.
Or your Marky Mark tickets and your tequila.
Yeah. Now, if he would have
It's a
autographed
bundle.
that, if he would have signed that to my best friend Kevin, love Marky Mark, I might have gone for that, but I kind of doubt that he would have signed it Marky Mark.
If he comes back, I'll get a wig with that little ponytail he had back in the day, and we'll go together, Kevin.
That's a deal. We'll find out where he's going to next, and we'll track him down. We'll follow him all over the country.
That's right. That's right. Just following that little rat tail all over the country. You know him by the parachute pants and the rat tail.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully we're not canceled by the morning. But before we do take off, let's talk about where folks can find everybody on social media. Josh, let's start with you.
Yeah, really, for me, it's just going to be Iron Roots on Instagram and Facebook at Ironroot Republic, and that's since I've taken over being responsible for all of that. I don't do much on the personal. I get my fill posting for the distillery, so and responding to stuff. But yeah, that would be where to find everything that we're up to. Or obviously we've got a website and a newsletter you can sign up for and all that stuff to know what we're doing at the distillery, what we're coming out with, what weird experiments we're doing, and who knows, if you look at it this week, you might just find Jonathan dressed up in a pirate outfit.
Well,
that's what I'm going to try and sell him on that on Monday. See if we can't make that happen.
Right.
I don't even want to know the context. I'm just waiting for the picture, and we'll bring it up next time we have him on the show. So.
There you go.
All right, Alan, how about yourself?
You can find me at spiritsofFrenchlick.com, thealchemistcabinet.com, and then if you have Ghost, you have everything podcast, Distillers Talk podcast, and One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube.
Yeah. And Drew.
Awesome. Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at drew.crawley63. That's where I post the majority of music stuff. I am still on Twitter. I said I was going to get off, and then I don't know what happened. So I'm still there being a jerk most of the time. You can follow along, and then wherever you find your music, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to it, I'd be honored if you would check out some of my stuff and keep your eyes peeled, because there's some more things coming very soon.
Awesome. All right. And for our show, you can watch us on YouTube. You can look at these handsome gentlemen that we have on here and watch the show there. If you want to listen to the show, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. You can get on Facebook. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we invite people to come on, post the things that you're listening to, post the things that you're drinking, and maybe somebody will say, hey, I've not tried that before, or hey, I've not heard that before, or it's been a long time since I've listened to that. And we'll get some conversation sparked that way. Now, next week, we have a wonderful show coming up.
Yes, we do. We're going to have
Awesome.
Todd Leopold
nice.
of Leopold Brothers on next week. So the next time you hear from us, sadly, Josh will not be joining on that show, but Alan will be. So we'll get deep into the nerdy side of whiskey distilling, and also try some great products from Todd and his team as well.
Yep. Carhartt overalls will abound.
It's the Belt Alternative Guild is what we call it.
All right. Well, I want to thank Josh and Alan for joining us. And on behalf of them, Drew and myself, thank you for listening. Until next time, cheers, love, and free bird.
My coffee's cold, damn it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.